So let's start in this way with, and I don't want to take a lot of time, extra time, and but I would start with the presentation from a member of our external advisory board, and I would invite today Fabio Bacchini from ISTAT to give his talk on Sustainable Development Goals monitoring.
Ok, tanto faccio solo, ok. Works, it works, okay. So, good morning, it's a pleasure to be here, so thank you to Manuela, to all the CMCC and also all the partners of the project for giving me the opportunity to follow this project from the beginning up to the conclusion. So it's a real pleasure to be here, and it's a real pleasure to be my second time in Lecce. That is a very wonderful city, so it's a very, I'm very happy to be here. So my contribution is just a small contribution to underline why SDG could be important for policy advising. So this is the way I'll try to just to make a short presentation on the way in which SDGs are presented inside the European statistical system, and why they're important also for European policy. So basically, just my presentation, I'm working, I'm head of research in ISTAT, and now I'm appointed to Italian Court of Auditors, where I try to follow some project related to SDGs. We are working on the way in which we can interpret the public balance with the lens of SDGs. So this is basically the work that that I did also in ISTAT with different framework. So basically, what is the probably you know this presentation because this is the annual book on SDGs presented by Eurostat. So you can see here that one of the problems that we have when we are talking about SDG, for all the SDGs, is the presentation, because we are talking about 17 goals, and we are talking about more than 100 indicators that are behind all these goals. So it means that the presentation is just one problem, because you don't know exactly the way in which you can try to make a synthesis of all these indicators. This is one way in which you can do that. And you can see that basically the idea of this presentation is to make a comparison of the latest data with the previous vintages of data, the previous year. And in this way, for each goals, you can try to have an idea of improvement or not about the goals. So you can see that basically all the goals that are related to your project are not at the top of the performance, but are near to the bottom level. This is exactly what's going on with the goal 14 and 15, but even the goal 13, that is climate action, so basically this is 13, 14, and 15, and you can see that are at the bottom of the performance in the latest year. As I said, this is the way in which we can try to make the short presentation, but you can try to see inside each goal, so what are the indicators and what is the performance of each indicator. So this is one way in which you can try to summarize all the way in which the goals is performing. And you can see, I just note that we have some problems with all these goals, the goals that are related to the project, and I mean, the indicators are not so good overall. This is the way in which the presentation is done, and this is exactly what I said before. So it means that for each goal, this is the goal 13, you can try to see the movement of each indicator. So basically you can try to compare the value of the indicator in the latest year with the previous year and see with the arrow if it's good or not. And you can see that, for example, here we have the comparison across long term, so it means 2009, 2023, and on the latest period, that is 2018, 2023. So this is the idea in which SDGs are important inside the European statistical system. I just would like to show in a very 3-4 slides why SDGs are important for policy. This is exactly what Laura said before. So why we're talking of SDGs? We're talking of SDGs because basically European policies is now orientated towards SDGs approach. So it means that you can see in this slide that it is extremely important that each project, a European project, should be oriented towards SDGs and try to assess what is the impact of one law or one fund in terms of SDGs. This is a way in which this slide is from the report, the Eurostat report. This is a way in which each row is a policy line, and for each policy line you can see what are the SDGs that are related to that policy. So even you can see this one, a new era for European defense and security, is articulated in terms of SDGs. So basically the idea is SDGs is a way in which you can try to measure the European budget and the European funds. The second important issue about SDGs is that you know that basically all countries are related to an assessment by European Commission about the performance across the year. And there is a document that tries to assess on this point, and this document is called the country report. And this one is basically just a snapshot from the country report of this year for Italy. And you can see basically that across the performance, this is the report where some years ago Italy, the country report for Italy started with Italy, the public deficit in Italy is again below 3% and so on. But now the situation is completely different. So it means that even in this kind of report, there is a strong attention to the SDGs performance. So the way in which you can try to measure the performance of one country in terms of SDGs. This is the snapshot for Italy. And this is basically the same, I can say, the picture for Italy in terms of SDGs compared to the median performance for European countries. And you can see that basically Italy is performing concerning the goals that related to the project. You can see that even the goal of 15, we are performing worse than European on average. And the European, I remember, the situation for goal 15 was not so good. So it means that Italy is performing worse than a better result. So basically, we have to think about it. My last slide is about the way in which we'll try to talk again tomorrow about this point, the way in which we can try to insert all the effort that you did about Copernicus and satellite data and the way in which you can try to see if inside the statistical system there is some experience that could be related to satellite data. I just would like to mention the result of a previous project founded by the European Commission that was called Maxwell, making a sustainable development and well-being working for policy analysis. The project was closed, if I remember, 2 or 3 years ago. But one of the points was an experience driven by statistical agency on Netherlands and Germany that use a different set of satellite data, but they use it for different indicators compared to yours, and basically they try to reinforce the survey related to poverty at risk. So it is a social indicator, it's a completely different framework, but, and this is my suggestion for the project, for the future of the project, I hope there is a future for the project. I think that we can try to think about satellite data in a way that we can try to extend the set of indicators that could be could be reinforced by the use of satellite data. Basically, for two things that are important, and we talk about these two property across all these this project. The first one is about the opportunity to compare the data from different country or different regions, because you are using the same source. This is not usually the point when you are trying to compare the same indicator for different countries. So to have the same source is an important issue. The second point is about timeliness, because as you know, especially for the goal that the project was working on, basically the timeliness is an critical issue for this domain, because basically we have the data, I should say, 2 years after the reference period. That is quite a huge time related to the policy importance of these indicators. So this is all. Thank you for inviting me, and so thanks.
Thank you very much, Fabio, for this very inspiring presentation and overview of the use of SDG also in a bit different way. And I would leave the opportunity for questions, if there are some questions or comments. Otherwise, I have a question for you, and it's mainly about this last project. I saw in your slide that the different one main indicator from proxy from land surface vegetation NDVI. It's used also in your project, plus another one to approximate the number of buildings. And first, I would know how would be possible to access to this database from this project, and to maybe try to see if it's possible to make like a comparison to see where maybe we have the pilot 5 in the SDGs project. They develop a new method to assess the number of buildings affected by climate extreme. For instance, we use NDVI for other application in soil erosion, in land forest mapping. My curiosity is how it would be possible to access to your data and maybe make comparison or create also new indicator or new application.
So thank you. The question is a very important, and address at least 2 points. The first one is comparability of your data with the, I should say, existing indicators. So I think that this work could be done even if we work together in a very simple way. This is simple, so we can try to have a sort of a benchmark of your indicator against the indicators that are already published by Eurostat, and this is the first point. The second point is a little bit more complicated. I mean, because this experience was driven by Germany and Netherlands, so I'll try to contact the people involved from the project and try to see if that experience was carried on in the last years, and I will try in this way to make a comparison. And I'll try also to see if across satellite data there is other pilot project inside the Eurostat.
That would be very great for also for exploitation of our projects of services. Monica? Yes, of course.
Thank you, Fabio. You mentioned about this assessment that you do at a country level. So how does relate that with the voluntary national reporting that you need to do for the United Nations? Is that you pick some indicators and report to these indicators because they change annually? Or you do in a different way, and how you do comparing to other countries in Europe?
The big issue. I mean, the way in which you can try to compare is not quite, is not, you can compare the data because basically you are saying that you are required a specific indicator, so say poverty at risk. Then each country are free to use the methodology that he wants to produce that kind of indicator. So you can have the comparison across countries by using the same indicator, but we have to be careful if see that indicator or there is a proxy, because you know that you can have also proxy inside SDGs. So when you try to make the comparison, you have to be extremely careful. And basically, when you try to send this kind of data to UN, there is a sort of traditional transmission on which you can try to send the data with the name, with all the specification across the target and the indicators, goal target indicators. And to my knowledge, even when we did that project, there's not an extremely, there's a huge work that has been done on the comparison of metadata, because at the end you have to be sure that the metadata are in some way similar to make comparison. But it's a big issue to solve it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Other questions, comments for Fabio? But tomorrow Fabio will be in the panel discussion, so we will have opportunity to ask more about this part. Thank you very much, Fabio. And now we have to move to the next presentation from Marc Paganini. It's online. So, hey Marc, nice to see you.
Good. Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me? I just want to check that the audio is working well.
Yeah, it's fine. We hear
okay,
you.
Great.
We hear you well, and thank you very much for giving this talk in our meeting. We are very happy that you can manage with your very full agenda, and thank you very much. So I leave you the floor.
Alors, let me try first to see if you. Oops, sorry, I need to come to the first slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes,
just
perfect.
To check. Okay. No, yeah, great. Thanks for the invitation, Manuela. Thanks for the whole team, for the CMSCC, but also for the CSDG-EYES teams. I mean, I was really planning to come to Lecce. It would have been the first time for me to visit your city and visit your center. Unfortunately, I mean, I have another meeting that came later, At the same time, this is actually a meeting with the conventions on wetlands and the Ramsar conventions, and we have a cooperation agreement that we just signed with them. I'm part of the scientific and technical review panel, so there was no way I could not be at that meeting. So I'm so sorry not to be with you, but I'm still happy actually to make that presentations on how we are engaged in ESA on the SDGs from the early days. But maybe just a few, one slide on ESA, because maybe some of you don't know on the European Space Agency. So we are an intergovernmental organization with 23 member states. We follow very much what are the priorities of our member states. Actually, we have a ministerial council today and tomorrow. We'll decide for our budget for the next 3 years. I mean, we have quite a substantial budget, as you can see on this slide, close to 8 billion. But this is essentially to develop satellites, launch and operate. And of course, the budget we have to do research and development of applications is less important than the one we allocated to building the satellites. But still, I mean, it's part of our mandate, as you see on these slides, to promote cooperations about European space, also in space research, technology, and applications. And that's what I want to show to you. I like very much these slides because it shows the evolution of the satellites landscape in the last 25 years, from the early 90s, where we had just one satellite. Actually, I started my career at almost at the very top there, working with the ISTAT satellite, to the present day, where we have, you see, tens of satellites that are in operations, in development, or in preparation. So, and this is only the ESA landscape. So you should also have all the other landscapes. And in Italy, as you know, we have an exciting program that is coming as well, and it will have a lot of satellite data on top of what is already available. You see here the three, I'm talking of course about IRIDE. You see on this slide the three families of satellites. On the left is the purely Earth science satellites, which call Earth explorers, that are more one-shot type of satellites to understand a certain component of the Earth systems. On the right is what we do in meteorology together with EUMETSAT, and of course, I want to bring your attention to the central one, which is Copernicus, which is the most ambitious program that has ever been put in place. I don't need to convince you, you're using it, the Sentinels, but we're already preparing for an expansion to the current satellites, with new satellites coming, like an hyperspectral one or L-band SAR mission. So, I mean, they will bring new observations that are really essential for sustainable development. And from the 2030s, we will have what we call the Sentinel next generations mission. So an evolutions of the current satellites that you've been using. For example, Sentinel-2 will probably move to 5 meters. I also like to show that slides because, I mean, one of the leitmotif of the 2030 agenda was to mobilize the data revolution for the benefits of all, leaving no one behind, no country behind. This has been said and repeated by the UN. And that's also the case for the Earth observations. I mean, we have petabytes of data available now. It's very complex, of course, to access this, but I mean, there's been a sort of significant advances in reducing the cost of computing infrastructures, but also advances in information technology and especially artificial intelligence. And we have to mobilize the Earth observation data revolutions as well, in order to make the use of satellite data easy also for countries and all countries around the world. And I mean, I could have made a presentations trying to address the whole of the sustainable development, but I focus it on the global indicator framework that was in place, that has been put in place since 2017, so more or less two years after the resolutions on the 2030 agenda was approved by the General Assembly of the UN. And you see on these slides how we are engaged, how ESA is engaged in the SDGs, working first, going from the top to the bottom, working first with a federated approach, led on one side by the Group on Earth Observation, GEO, that had a number of activities related to sustainable development goal, and also CEOS, which is the committee of all the space agencies that have an Earth observation programs, which includes, of course, ESA, but also ASI, for example, for the Italian Space Agency, and NASA, USGS, NOAA, EUMETSAT. I mean, all the most famous space agencies. So how we've been working on the indicator framework is working obviously directly with the statistical divisions in New York and the team in charge of the SDGs, and especially the SDG indicators, working also with the working group on geospatial information, which is a subgroup of this interagency expert group on SDG indicators. And I'm sure Monica can say a lot about this because she attended the last meeting of this IAG, which is led by the statistical community, working with what we call in the SDG world the custodian agencies, which are the agencies that are in charge of the different indicators. You know, there's always an organization in charge of each single indicators, and this is essentially working with FAO, UN Habitat, UNEP, of course, that has more than 40 indicators, UNCCD, the Secretariat of UNCCD, and others. Of course, when it comes to implementations, we have been working a lot with the National Statistical Institutes and aligned ministries that are in charge of, because it's not all done by the NSIs. I mean, the environmental ones are more done by the environmental agencies, and then a number of stakeholders working either at a global level like UNGGIM or at more regional levels like Eurostat that also are key players, let's say, the implementations. And how we work with them, with the custodians, I mean, we were supporting them with developing global or regional data sets that can help countries that don't have the capacity to access to data or technology, but also, and this was mentioned a bit before, supporting the development of the good practice guidance, the metadata that needs to go with the SDG indicators, the methodological guidelines and everything. With the countries, it was essentially in mainstreaming Earth observations into their processes and their systems and transferring the skill to the countries. And the community was developing these infrastructures that enable the use of Earth observations and sharing knowledge that we've been doing essentially with the group on Earth observations. So we've been very active from the genesis of the 2030 agenda. You know that in the resolutions adopted by the General Assembly, there was an article that explicitly mentioned Earth observation and geospatial information. Unfortunately, the global indicator framework that was defined in 2017, adopted in 2017 by the UN Statistical Commissions, was not developed with an Earth observation mindset. And I'm sure you face the same problem as us. So it was very difficult in some cases to integrate Earth observations in the methodology to produce the indicators, and we hope that this will change in the post 2030, and we hope that Earth observation will be taken as a key input to these indicators. But we've been very active in promoting the use of Earth observation from the early days, making different reports. You see, for example, the second one. This one is the one that I did. That I was coordinating for CEOS on the use of satellite observation for the SDGs, but then we had projects also doing a deep dive, let's say, in certain type of indicators and trying to see how Earth observation can contribute. Copernicus has also published a number of publications, and we were very active in different international events like the World Data Forum, which is specific for SDGs, the high-level political forum on SDGs in New York, also in the Earth observation community at the Living Planet Symposium that we organize, where we always had, for the last 15 years, we always had an event on SDGs and a more thematic forum like the World Urban Forum. We also collected some testimonials, and you see here on these slides the director of the UNSD, you see the Secretary General of the Ramsar Convention, you see Gillian Campbell, who is the lead of the monitoring framework for the global biodiversity framework of the CBD. Baron Hoare is the lead scientist for the UN Convention to Combat Desertifications, and you have Lorenzo Di Simone from FAO. And the key messages, I mean, if there's one message that I got from all of them, That was actually midway to the 2030s, so it's something we did a few years ago. What it was lacking is really the integration of Earth observations into the processes of the countries. First, the national statistical institutions, but also moving into all the agencies that are involved in collecting and producing these indicators. So in ESA, the way we have tackled this is we have a programmatic element as part of our program to develop solutions for the SDGs, starting what we call the Pathfinders, where we try to develop new approach, innovative approach actually to address specific aspects of the SDGs that have not well been tackled in the indicator framework. The scaling up is when we scale what is already mature but at a local scale, and we scale it up to a larger scale, so national, regional, global. And engine, and that's the key one, where we operationalize the data processing pipelines that are usually developed on our own data platforms, and then we bring this into the systems and the processes of the countries, and engagement that I just show about participation to conference and producing scientific publications. So we had different activities in both Pathfinder, scaling up, and engines that you see on these slides. I'm moving fast because I don't want to take too much of time. Just to give you we'll be very fast on this. Few examples. In the SDG 11, so on the sustainable cities and communities, we had I will list two collaboration we did with UN Habitat. One on the proportion of urban populations living in slums and informal and deprived areas, in something that we've been doing with ITC from the Netherlands, in finding new ways to map. There were different activities in that project, but the main one is really the mapping of informal settlements using artificial intelligence. And it's very challenging because, there's a lot of diversity in the way these informal settlements are set in the different countries, but we make really big progress, and this will be used in the evolutions of the SDG indicators 11.1.1. On the 11.3.1s, we were on the ratios of land consumption rates, especially on the global urbanizations. We were using global data sets that we developed together with some partners like the World Settlement Footprint and the Global Human Settlement Layers, and use also this as a way to downscale the census data to have population data to a more local scale, and I have more details about the implementation of these indicators. Then we work a lot on coastal eutrophication, which is a sub-indicators of 14.1.1. And here you see a project that we've been doing together with UNEP in two countries. And the one on the right is a project we've been doing with the UNCCD to assess land degradations at a more finer scale, so moving to the scale of Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, so 10 to 20 meter, on following the methodological guidelines that were developed by UNCCD. So I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's the one out, all out concept that is based on land cover, land productivity, so essentially temporal series of NDVI and or other spectral indices, and then the below and above ground biomass. So we were trying to see, can we use the Sentinel data in order to have more detailed scales, especially for very heterogeneous landscape, or for the small islands, for example, where data at 1 kilometer resolution is not good enough to assess land degradations. I just want to mention, because I'm at the Ramsar Convention today, at the Convention on Wetlands, and UNEP is also present, and we are discussing actually the SDG indicator 661 on the change of water-related ecosystems. On one side, you have we have two projects actually in ESA on this. One is called the World Water, where we are developing new solutions to monitor the dynamics of surface water. And then, of course, together with the Ramsar Convention, we have another project on developing national wetland inventories. And you have to know that actually, after 15 years of existence of the Ramsar Convention, still 50% of the countries don't report on the national wetland inventories. So this is the work we've been doing on surface water dynamics, starting from monthly occurrence of waters and deriving a number of indicators, and also moving from extent to change in storage. in lakes and reservoirs, and also in river discharge through modeling, through hydrological modeling, integration, Earth observations into this. But I think the key message is that it was important to move to Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 because it allows actually to have this monthly occurrence that you cannot get with Landsat data, which is the current data that is used in that context. And I like this slide that we're developing these days together with the Ramsar, moving, I think somebody mentioned this, moving from global to national scale to have this consistency between global data sets and national data sets, and using some sort of pre-trained models with global data set at national level, allowing training data and national data sets to be integrated into the solutions and retraining the model to have to improve the accuracy and the class details at national level, but still maintaining the consistency with at global scales to have consistent data reported at global scale, and we can move it as well to the local scale. My last slide is what we do, and I'm moving actually to what needs to happen after 2030, because we realize that there is a lot of work we do, of data we produce that can be used to support multiple policies or multiple SDG indicators, and this has not been done enough in the current global indicator framework to make sure, and this will allow to really reduce the reporting burden at the level of the countries. And it's important actually that the same data is used in the different SDG indicators, but also in the different policy domain. So we are part of a very ambitious program, which is called the Global Ecosystem Atlas, led by the GAO, the Group on Earth Observation, which has the objective to develop the global map of all the ecosystems following a typology which is called the Global Ecosystem Typology. And that's the project that we have in ESA, which is called WEED, where we will provide tools for countries to map the ecosystems. But I want to bring your attention to this. I mean, in terms of policy support, it supports the indicators of the Global Biodiversity Framework of the Convention on Biological Diversity. It supports also the wetland inventories that I was mentioning, which is one of the targets of the conventional wetlands. It supports the system of environmental economic accounting on ecosystem accounting, and Extend is actually one of the accounts that has been adopted and now implemented in a regulation in Europe. It supports the SDG targets in 666 on water-related ecosystems, 14.2 on the marine and coastal ecosystems, and 15.1 on the terrestrial ecosystem. So you see, the same data, the same tools can be used in different policy contexts, and that is really important. It's something we're doing together with countries and Europe, by the way, and the European Environmental Agency is a key partner on this. And we build these solutions on something that we maintain on the long term, and OpenEO is one of the platforms that ESA has been developing and will maintain over the long term. So the idea is that all the data pipelines we developed are maintained and make available to countries so that they can rely on something that they know will still exist in the future. And my last slide is this one. I mean, we're organizing a big conference in May 2026, addressing the use of Earth observations in statistics, in official statistics, which includes the SDGs. And we are going to have a lot of workshops discussing about the integrations of satellite data with traditional statistical surveys, the problem of data infrastructures, the problem of interoperability, how we can operationalize this and integrate this into the country, the systems of the countries. So problem of uncertainties, of trust, and all of this is really important. And I hope that actually the whole team of the SDGs will come to that conference. It's next door. It's will be organized in Ezrin, and I stop with this. Sorry if I was a bit long, but I hope that it was useful for all of you.
Thank you very much, Marc. Yeah, thank you very much for showing us all products that could be used in Earth observation, and also for giving us example of some application. And it's very good because you showcased two indicators that we are also addressing in SDG, that it's the coastal eutrophication basically and the land degradation. We are using different, the computation of indicator is different, because we know also the definition. Fabio already told us that it's complex. So if we want to compare them, we have to stick with one clear definition of the indicator first. And second, my question is for you is, how do you think we can compare all this indicator information that we have at the moment? Because there are many projects, not only from ESA, from European Commission, founded from different framework. Do you know if there are already one activity for making synergies between all existing projects, and also to maybe to draft or to integrate some information that we have from projects in to frame or integrating the framework for the agenda after 2030? If there are some kind of initiative.
Yeah, that's a very nice question. I mean, there is not an easy answer to this, because I mean, it's unfortunately the SDG, the whole SDG landscape is a very complex landscape, as you've seen in my slide, especially one of the first slides where I show what are the key actors. There's so many stakeholders involved, so it's always very difficult to share knowledge in all this world. There have been some attempts, especially in the working group on geospatial informations, to share best practices, but they only share a few of them, and only those coming from the countries. GEO was probably the best. The group on Earth observation was probably, especially from an Earth observation perspective, from a satellite, not only satellite, Earth observation in the broad sense, was probably the best initiative that tried to share that knowledge. Unfortunately, it didn't materialize really in something that where everybody was involved, let's say. And we are in a situation because it was led by the US, and you know that sustainable development is unfortunately not a priority of the Trump administration. So now we are in a bit of a difficult situation with this, because NASA was leading this, had to stop in a way, leading this. So we are still discussing, and Monica, she can tell you more about this because she's been involved in these discussions. But I still believe it's the best place to share that knowledge. In ESA, we will probably, I'm discussing a lot with Monica on this, to see how, at least from a European perspective, how we can share that knowledge. It's maybe something we can do together with Eurostat as well. We have discussing also with the GISCO team at Eurostat, and they have a dedicated task team on Earth observation, but not only on the SDGs, but on purely SDGs. At least at ESA, we will probably try to bring a number of projects and data sets and knowledge and best practices together. But I still believe that probably the GEO would be the best framework to do this, if we manage to have the critical mass, let's say, if we have first a very well established, let's say, structure to do that work, and then bringing everybody around. But you're right. I mean, there's so many projects that have been running to do that work, and unfortunately, that knowledge is not channeled to the countries as it should be.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Other question or comment, of course, from Monica. You were mentioned also from Marc.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you very much. It was very enlightening, the presentation. You mentioned that today is happening in the ISA ministerial. Obviously, we are not going to anticipate what is happening there, but through maybe the ISA roadmaps, what is in your vision, if there is approval by the member states, how much it will go into the supporting the sustainable development agenda, and also some directions or plannings for developing projects or supporting the existing projects that are on the SDGs? Any lights? Because we are discussing here about exploitations, so just wanted to maybe know more from you. Thank you.
The point is that the way we work in ESA is that we have a set of mandatory and optional programs. Anything related to Earth observation is optional. So countries have a target in terms of, we set a target in terms of overall budget, and then we hope that countries will subscribe to a certain levels. We unfortunately we know already that given the geopolitical situations today in Europe and the fact that we need to move a bit more into security and defense, yeah, unfortunately, this will also happen to ESA, where we'll have a dedicated program on security, and this is something new that will probably take a bit of money from the Earth. Well, no, for sure. That deviate, let's say, the budget that typically goes into Earth observations into that aspect. So we know already in advance that this will be that our program that funds all the activities we do as Sustainable Development Goals will be undersubscribed. There is no doubt about this, and this will have an impact on all what we've been planning in the future. But the good point with the SDGs is that if we take the SDGs from the goal and the target perspective, it's basically all what we do. Everything we do is relevant. And so we decided, at least in ESA, to address the SDGs from a thematic point of view in the different thematic domains. So anything related to agriculture, for example, we have a dedicated roadmap on developing different solutions, let's say, related to agriculture and to agricultural statistics. And this will be handled in the different domains. So, for example, what I'm discussing today with the Convention on Wetlands will be discussed in a roadmap we have already in place on water and wetlands. On the SDGs will probably go together. On purely the SDG indicators, we will address this as well together with what the work the roadmap and the work plan we are putting in place on Earth observation for official statistics. And actually the conference I was just mentioning in May will be an important input to our work. So we will have dedicated activities supporting the national statistical institutes, and especially the European one, and hopefully ISTAT as well, to integrate Earth observations into their practices. So it's something where we will really focus on this, and development of SDG indicators will be part of it, but not only. We have all the type of statistics that are also important, but which in a way contribute as well to the SDGs indirectly. So I hope that you get my point, because the indicators are just a number of metrics that allow us to monitor progress on number of targets. And for various reasons, it was decided not to have more than 2 indicators per target, which I can understand. Otherwise, we will have too many indicators. So basically, we'll address the SDGs from different angles. And to respond to your questions, Monica, what we are discussing, and I'm actually also discussing with you on this, is how to bring that knowledge together. So taking the things we do in the different thematic domains with the activities we are doing really with the statistical institutes, and bringing this together in order to have a sort of knowledge sharing. And then I come back to the questions of Manuela, to share that knowledge, starting with what we do in ESA and moving into other as well. We will extend this not only to ESA projects.
Yeah, because this is also part of the innovation. We have this very fast, quick innovation in Earth observation. Maybe we will have a Sentinel at 5 meters.
The next generation.
Next generation will be, but also we have science and also progress in science and now in scientific knowledge to integrate with this innovation. So sorry if I interrupt you. And Marc, we will see in Frascati next May. So, and of course, maybe we will come back. Okay, there is one question, last question from Fabio Bacchini from ISTAT.
Hi, Marc, thank you for the presentation. It's just not a question, it's just to underline how could be important to make a jump in the dissemination and the use of satellite data to involve completely the statistical system. So I think that will be crucial also in Frascati to arrive with a sort of engagement, at least of Eurostat, because basically when you are working with Eurostat is also able to provide some data, some SDGs indicators by itself, if it shares the methodology and it could see some gains in the production of these indicators. So it will be extremely important, even ISTAT, but I mean, Eurostat will be much more important at this stage. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can't agree more with what Fabio said. I mean, this is the objective of the. We are of course discussing a lot with Eurostat on this. I mean, we hope to establish a very good collaboration with them. This is still in the making, and actually the conference we're organizing in May, and I hope that many of you will attend that conference. It goes into that direction, and for us, it's a key milestone to make that collaborations more efficient. Start first with Eurostat, and then moving, of course, with all the national statistical institutions, which we hope to be very present at the conference. We don't want the conference to be an EU conference.
Okay.
We want at the conference to have the same level of participation from the countries and from the EU community.
Okay, thank you very much, Marc. I'm sorry, but I have to
No.
Stop your this very nice conversation with you, because we have people online, and we have from FAO, Matieu from a Custodian agency. And so thank you very much, Marc, again, and see you in Rome.
Thanks. I'll stay online and I'll stay online and listen for the next hour. Okay. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. Matieu. Some minutes to change the presentation. And yep. And this presentation, it's not in the agenda that you got yesterday, or the printed one, but yeah. Hey, good morning, Matieu. Can you hear me?
Hello, Manuela. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Good morning, colleagues.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to this SDG meeting. And and also thank you very much for giving this talk and telling about the role and the perspective from a custodian agency from FAO. The floor is yours, Matieu.
Thank you, Manuela. Thank you, Malik, and good morning, colleagues. Unfortunately, I am not with you today, but I'll try to contribute as much as I can during and through this presentation. So I think the presentation of Marc Paganini before was a good transition to this presentation from a United Nations organization. And yeah, I will share my screen. I just wanted before maybe to mention two important things, maybe that may be useful in terms of reflection. And I think it's quite very important to understand what are the final user needs when we talk about data. The most important is not to have data that are as accurate, as precise but it's to have data that can be used for something. And it's important to have, and then that the final users who are selecting the data and information that can be used for what they need. So let's say if you have a project on forestry or farming, agriculture, then depending on what you need, the final users, they will have expectation in terms of accuracy because of their investment, because of the long-term activities that they are implementing. So what is important is to well understand what are the final user needs, and to try to maximize that the data can be used for and align with an activity. And then maybe the second thing is when we talk about data and information, it is also important to make sure that the data and information that we are providing can align with the local context as much as possible. And by this, we talk about like a socio-cultural, biophysical context that is mostly represented or illustrated with the semantic content of that characterize or represent the subject that we talk about. And for this, is important that it's not a question about only about increasing the spatial resolution, but it is also important to increase the thematic content of the information that we are providing to match with a local need or a local context. So by saying this, I will quickly jump into the presentation. I don't know if you see my screen. Well,
Yes,
this is the
we
wrong
see
screen,
your
correct?
screen. Can you put in present? Oh, no.
Yeah, I think I shared the wrong screen. So maybe, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Good. So I'm not going to talk about FAO in general, nor about all the projects or the platforms, because there are too many, it's too long. We have 10, 15 minutes, so I'll go straight to talk about the link between data information, geospatial applications, and their use in the context of the SDGs. It can be the SDGs, it can be, I will explain. So FAO is a United Nations organization created in 1945. So we are after the Second World War, with a very clear mandate that is about defeating hunger and improve nutrition and food security. The first article, of the FAO convention is about like data collection, analysis, interpretation, and dissemination of the information related to the mandate of the organization. So we talk about fishery, livestock, forestry, crop production. So when we talk about the agricultural sector, we don't talk only about agricultural land, we talk about agriculture in general. So what FAO does is FAO supports plans, strategies, decision-making process through its data and information to make the transformation of the agricultural sector more efficient, more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. It's important to take into account these different dimensions. Also, when we talk about sectoral approaches, when we talk about climate change, we also need to take into account biodiversity or land degradation, but also many other dimensions. So for this, we have a strategic framework, and this strategic framework aims at making agriculture and agri-food systems better in terms of production, in terms of nutrition, in terms of environment, and in terms of life. With the objective of leaving no one behind. So for this, FAO is the custodian agency of 21 SDG indicators, but we are contributing to many others, 5 officially, but there are many others, including land degradation, the Green Mountain Index, and many others for which we are also contributing. So FAO, this is 130 country offices with 195 member nations. So 100 country offices, that means like maybe 200 decentralized offices with 5 regional offices, 11 sub-regional offices. So we directly report to, we have direct interaction with a lot of Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and a lot of ministries in these countries. And when producing data and information, it is important that we have to take into account this national dimension. So here, this is an illustration in the context of Nigeria, but this is being done in almost all the countries. But what we have to do is we have to establish every 5 years or 4 years a country programming framework where we are recognizing what are the national targets, what are the indicators, what are the data and information that illustrate the status of each of these indicators to propose, prioritize activities and interventions to be implemented in collaboration between the government, FAO, and your other UN organization. So here, this is an illustration in the context of Nigeria, where we have an overall problem that is formulated. It's about like unsustainable food production, and what we try to identify are what are the indicators that illustrate this situation, and we try to maximize the possibility. So in this context, this is in the context of a GEF project, several GEF projects, how these different GEF projects are going to contribute to the national plan and strategy, based on which indicator are we going to illustrate and identify how to prioritize the activities to contribute overall to contribute to the SDG. So you see that the SDG is an overall overarching framework that has the possibility to catalyze all the data and information that are produced for a lot of indicators at many different spatial levels. But the importance is that to make sure that we have this kind of framework that allows consistency of the information between different spatial levels, but also between different countries or between different regions. And we don't have other framework with that level of recognition and adoption. Now, within this framework, there is one important thematic information that is critical when we talk about terrestrial or land information. These are the land cover and land use information. So land cover and land use, they are being used in many SDG targets, and they are recognized within the UN as fundamental data team. They are used in the context of emergency, for rapid assessment, for crop monitoring, for forestry monitoring, and many others. They are being used for monitoring and reporting to a number of environmental conventions, climate change, desertification, biodiversity, ecosystem accounting, and many others. So land cover and land use are fundamental data sets. But what we observe is that in many countries, you have different ministries reporting different land cover data. You have different countries using different legends, different definitions. And of course, I mean, when we talk about the forest in country A and country B, we don't talk about the same thing. So it is important to have the possibility to create some framework where we have integration of different spatial level, allowing and maximizing the possibility that we talk about the same thing. So this is an example. We are in the context of Kebbi state in Nigeria, and so a land cover product is prepared. This is consistent with a national product of land cover that is being developed, that is also integrated with a regional reference system. So that's the West African reference system. So you see the possibility of having a regional framework, a national application, and then products that are more detailed, at least here, this is in terms of spatial resolution, but not in terms of thematic content. That was decided that way, but it should, depending on who are the final users, there should be additional, there should be more detailed thematic information requested. Now, for this, what we do is that we try to maximize the possibility that any user has the possibility for any country to access a legend, a national legend, and this is reflected in the FAO Land Cover Legend Registry. There, we provide a compilation of legends for various countries in line with the latest standards under ISO. So the ISO 19144-1-2-3 on land cover classification, land cover meta-language, and land use meta-languages. And each of these land cover legends contains several classes. You have the class description that is object-based classification with elements and properties and characteristics. And you have the link of each of these legends with the related national or subnational datasets. This effort is being supported with a number of tutorials, training materials. You may have heard about LCCS. So now LCCS has become LCHS because we have updated, we developed a new software based on the latest version of the standards. So now it is called Land Characterization System Software. And you have, if you go to lchs.fao.org, you have access to the latest version of the software that has the possibility to create legends based on the latest version of the software, where you have a clear description of what are the different objects, elements, properties, and characteristics behind each of the class. So that allows the possibility to have legends that can navigate at different spatial level between different countries with different languages, with different modes of representation. So this is quite very important because that allows to develop partnerships, because these different partners, they can understand what is the difference between the different legends, because a legend is linked to an objective. So this is an example of Bangladesh, where you have 13 national entities agreeing on one national representation system, one database that then can provide information using different legends for Ministry of Agriculture, for Ministry of Water Management, for the Ministry of Environment, for reporting to FAO STAT, to report to Climate Convention, and many others. And you have the similar framework that has been developed for 17 countries for West Africa in collaboration with ECOWAS, SILS, Agrimet, OSS, NADA Servier, and FAO. So these different frameworks, the objective is to facilitate and maximize the possibility of the use of many different satellite imagery products at different spatial resolution for monitoring different indicators. So depending on what we are monitoring, depending on what are the user needs, different products can be used to derive different indicators. The most important is that at the end, the user, they have the information that they need to implement their activity. So you see, for example, here you have, in the context of Bangladesh, you have spot 65 being used to monitor wood fuel consumption. In the context of Libya, you have Sentinel-2 10-meter resolution being used to monitor crop mapping in Libya. In Uruguay, you have Landsat being used for the land cover map, and an example of Angola where MODIS were used to monitor land degradation. Another example from Lebanon, where you have very high resolution, like in Planet, Worldview, or Maxa, being used to monitor greenhouses and others. So for this, FAO developed a platform, that's a geoprocessing platform, the CEPAL, cepal.io, that allows with a number of recipes to do some composites, to develop some analysis, like you mentioned land degradation before. So you have a module there where you can compute the SDG indicator 15.3 according to the latest guidelines, where you can have use different productivity data sets. You can ingest the national land cover data sets with their national land cover legends, and you can also do some adjustment depending on the assumptions that you have behind land degradation, whether you want to aggregate classes or not. This is possible on CEPAL 15.3.1. This is an illustration. We talk about linking local to global. So we are in the context of Bangladesh, 2017. You have 1 million refugee Rohingya in the south of Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, and the land is massively degraded. So because of the need to access for fuel wood, the indicator 15.3.1 was used to monitor land degradation, but also to monitor the restoration. That was the most important, to monitor the positive changes of the vegetation in support to the restoration activities. So you can see that you have an increase of the degradation. In parallel, you have forestry-related activities, nurseries, plantation, and so on, and you have a decrease of the degradation along with all the restoration activities. This is another example in the context of Sudan. So SDG number 2, you have national level land cover, you have national productivity data sets, and then at state level and then at irrigation scheme level, we try to increase the spatial resolution and detail of the information in support to specific activities and requests. So here, this example, this is about like maximizing to better understand the impact of the conflict on the irrigation scheme, in particular, the access of water and the status of the maintenance of the canals, to monitor and understand the status of food security. So you can see in 2023, you have a drop of the crop production that is almost by 60% in the irrigation scheme of Gezira. This is another example. Here we are monitoring, this is again in the context of SDG number 2, crop production for increasing food security. We are in Nigeria, in the state of Kebbi, and at the village level, we integrate different indicators related to crop production, related to irrigation, rice production, and we try to answer to the question. So this is a question that is formulated with the country office: which local government in Kebbi State are the most in need of flood-resilient intervention to increase rice productivity? And by integrating these indicators, we have the possibility to have a better understanding. Of course, this is a data-driven process that complements another process that is more about the stakeholder and local engagement process, where you have data and people to interact together and identify what to be implemented, considering a situation where there is a need to increase food production in the context of floods and climate change in Nigeria. This is another example here where we are in the context of Nepal, in the context of SDG 6 about water. We try to identify where are the most priority area in terms of access of water. So what we try to do, we have a land cover, we differentiate rain-fed and irrigated, and we look at also, we integrate population-related data, and we try to identify where are the most prioritized area if we want to increase crop production by providing access to water. So basically, how we have, where do we maximize the impacts in terms of food production by providing access to water for irrigated cropland. However, I mean, this is quite important, all these data, to have better understanding of the situation of a country, of a region, and support an activity and the process. We need to keep in mind that in a lot of regions in the world, we have very low understanding about the status of the food security. So here we are in the context of Burkina Faso. And basically, if you compare 9 to 10 different global products related to land cover where you have cropland information, and the difference that you have between one product and another one is by 10. So basically, to answer to the question, what is the status of crop production in 2024 in Burkina Faso? This is very complicated because you have variation of your cropland area between 1,600,000 hectares and 16 million hectares. So the difference is massive, is big. So we have to be very careful with all these different products, considering that in some areas it is very complicated. It is there needs to be a lot of information, in particular in situ information, if they can be available. In context like Burkina Faso, this is increasingly becoming difficult to have access of local information. All the data and information, what we try to do is to maximize that they are made available on the platform. So that's the FAO agroinformatics platform. You will find a lot of land cover products, but many other products related to crop productivity, productivity of vegetation, water quality, irrigation scheme, and so on the FAO agroinformatics platform. In conclusion, the SDG framework is an overarching framework. It is important because it can integrate all the national related framework, but also all the data sets and the indicators that we are producing, and to maximize, they can be then transferred, made accessible at the local level. From the moment that we have the possibility to maximize the possibility of capturing their representation system, their classification systems, and to also better capture what information do they need. It's important of creating integrated framework, capturing what we have in the national development plans, what you have in the different projects, and to maximize the possibility that when we are producing the data, it targets national objectives. There is a need of adoption of standards if we want to ensure that the data from different partners, but also different partners, can talk together and talk about the same thing. So let's try to be constructive and cost efficient by adopting these standards and by enhancing the technical capacity of our technical partners on how to use Earth observation.
Thank you.
It's important to develop sustainable data processing chains, meaning that when we talk about agriculture or the forestry sector, we talk about short to long-term processes that requires data and information for long-term. So it's important to capture this. We don't have single recipe, and it's important to recognize the diversity of satellite data and technologies and capture that diversity as much as possible to make the data available and accessible in a timely way and collaboratively. And yes, all of this, the final objective is to have the possibility to provide adaptable and adaptable solutions to local and national / regional context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matieu. And thank you very much also for showing us the impressive work on data collection and map and GIS map production that you are doing in your institution. And question, we have time for a quick question or comment. We have a comment from Monica. Maybe Monica, you can introduce yourself as well.
Yes. Thank you, Matthew. It has been very illustrative. I am part from the SDGs-EYES partner, but I'm representing ERSC, is the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies. So you mentioned about this typology of legends that you are using internally, and the previous presentation by Marc Paganini was referring also to the Global Ecosystem Atlas that is using a common typology, and he mentioned about the Global Ecosystem Typology from UNCN, which is the International Union for Convention of Nature. So how your work is related also with this Global Ecosystem Atlas that GEO is producing, and are you discussing already with them to use these same typologies, or how is that connected? Because it's so important, this piece of work that you are doing, and how that could be connected at the international level. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So just for your information, we are interacting with Marc Tondrieux from ERSC. I think we'll talk to him tomorrow, related to a questionnaire that we are sending about like better capturing and understanding what are the user needs and requirements for spatial applications. I mean, mostly use of space-based data for terrestrial applications. And to answer to your question related to Global Ecosystem Atlas, so this has been taken into consideration in the context of ecosystem restoration, I think. That's under the UN framework on ecosystem restoration. However, again, it's quite important to maximize the possibility of capturing what are the national ecosystem-related representation systems or classification or categorization, if we want to maximize the possibility that the data and information that we are producing at a global level can be integrated at a local level. So meaning that FAO has not adopted this ecosystem classification. It's using it for sectoral-based applications like ecosystem restoration. However, the most important in a country, in the context of a country, is that to maximize the possibility that the data information are being produced, considering the way that they are representing their ecosystems. So we recognize what exists, but we try to maximize the possibility that we are producing something that match with the country that is supposed to receive, or that is also collaborating and being involved in the production of the data and information.
Thank you very much, Matieu. And I think we will have a time or so later on in the next weeks and months to go deeper on this point.